Let's get right to it. Let's keep our answers short and our questions short so we can get a lot in. What's the first thing you're going to do in the first 10 days to move this city forward if you get elected, Mike?
Well, the first thing we're going to do is we're going to have a transition team, and that's going to be the day after the election. And once that transition team's in place, and I believe that can be done within 2 days, I'm going to personally try to meet with every mayor and township commissioners and groups like that and just go around this region between November and December and meet as many as I can and let them know what the new mayor of Toledo is all about.
All right, one of the things that's come up over the course of the campaign is economic development directors. Correct me if I'm wrong. You say you don't want to have one, and what's the reason for that?
No, I just think it's overburdening on the tax dollars. I don't think we can afford it. And I've watched what happened with the Meta Plan. And you have in the Meta Plan, it was really designed by President Emeritus Johnson from the University of Toledo. You've got the LCIC, you've got TMACOG, you've got RGP, the Chamber, and the Port Authority are the primary players in it. Well, they're all basically, if they all would work together, we could get there. And throwing another name in there, the City of Toledo's Economic Development Director, is not going to bring these together. The only way it's going to happen is this month when they reconvene. If they understand that the University of Toledo is going to take their pivotal role, if the Chamber is going to stay where they're at on top, because they're the ones that support the continuation of struggling businesses, and the Port Authority dealing with the other side of the economic development, and everybody else should be helping. They all should be lifting the three together, and that's the only way we're going to do it. And I just don't see the $90,000 that we're paying now, or anything like that. I think that's too much government.
How do you assure though then that the city will be going in the direction that Mike Collins, as mayor, would like to see it go in, if you have no control over what economic development is happening? Or do you expect to have a voice in that?
The City of Toledo will, and council will have a definite voice in that, because council will be responsible with the legislative parts of what government plays in a public-private partnership. So it's going to be critical, because we all are going to work together. But government has no business, in my opinion, intervening and telling businesses where they're going to locate, how they're going to do business, and what's on the agenda for them, because they better satisfy our needs or we're not going to participate with it. I don't believe in that.
Well, council has done some of that, though, just in the last couple of years with the convenience store regulations and the security cameras that they wanted them to have and other things like that. So they have gotten involved in telling businesses what to do. Is there a role there that they're supposed to have? Because there are an awful lot of regulations on businesses.
And that goes back to 2007 before I came on, but I'm not going to duck behind that and say I wasn't there when that happened. That wouldn't be fair either, because I was attending the council meetings and I listened to the testimony. That was driven by the neighborhoods, actually, and I think there was some unsavory reasons behind it as well. I think there was some ethnicity that was brought to bear, which was very unsavory and very unfortunate. But by the same token, I think government has a role to step in when they're selling instruments for using drugs and things of this nature and pawning them off as souvenirs or things that I think government has a proper role to intervene on things like that from a regulatory body.
Right, you've been on council now for a while, and obviously if you win, your seat will be given over to somebody else. How are you going to manage that delicate balance of working with council? Because we've seen that, at least with this current mayor, it doesn't work very well. How do you manage that?
As an independent, I think I've been pretty successful. I listen to all the council members. I don't have an enemy on council. I mean, I really and truly don't. I'm probably one of the only members of council that can walk into any office and sit down, and we can have a civil discord and leave with a civil feeling about one another and shake hands. So I don't have that problem.
Mike Collins in studio with me. Mike is currently city council person for District 2, but he'd like to be your mayor, which of course leaves me in the lurch, because then I'd have no city council person. What happens, because since you're an independent, normally, Republican goes away, Democrat goes away, they get to name it. Who gets to name who takes your seat if you're lucky enough to win the mayor's seat?
Well, fortunate enough to win the mayor's seat.
Yeah.
My seat would then go to the council for appointment, and the majority of council very similar to what happened when Mark Sobczak resigned his position. The majority of council, 7 council members, will vote on an individual, and that individual will replace me. And then what will happen
For just the remainder of your term?
No, it'll be until April of 2010.
Okay.
And then it'll go before the voters at the primary.
All right.
And then both parties, or an independent, whatever the numbers may be, will come in, and there will be an election for a person to fill my unexpired term.
All right, that sounds good. I like that idea. Let's get back to economic development a little bit. Without an economic development director, but with input from the alphabet soup of groups that are out there right now, they do seem also at sometimes to be at loggerheads with each other, where their focus is on roads, on intermodal, on different things. Is there a way that the mayor's office can exert some influence so that they are looking at something that you are targeting, for instance, as something you want done?
Well, with the exception of the Chamber and the RPG, these are all tax-driven organizations. And I think because of that, there has to be a working relationship with the City of Toledo and with our region, not just the City of Toledo. And I really think there's good leadership in all of those organizations. LCIC is looking for a director now, but I think eventually that'll come to pass. There is good leadership on every one of them. I'm not going to signify any of them specifically, but I really and truly believe that necessity becomes the mother of invention. Maybe a little cliche, but I think it'll happen. I really believe it can happen, and I really think one of the major ways it will happen is when there's a reasonable attitude coming from the 22nd floor.
Is that what it's going to be for you, is basically a change in attitude? Because there has to be a plan also to bring new businesses to town. We have to regrow the city basically and get the population back. What's the Mike Collins administration do for that?
Well, the first thing, I think my management style is going to be a lot different than what we've experienced here in the last 4 years and perhaps the last 12. I do not believe in micromanagement. I believe that the leader of an organization defines those who will be responsible, in this case the division heads, the department heads, the organizational leaders, and they take charge of everything. For an example, from my area, police, the chief of police will run the police department, not the mayor. And the chief of police will run the police department like a business. And part of a business is customer service. And that's something I'm going to insist on across the board, is respect to the taxpayer, customer service.
Now, I know yesterday you mentioned in one of the forums that you haven't given any thought yet to who your chief of staff would be. You haven't even considered the question. Have you done that at all with a chief of police, a chief of fire, or any of the other positions that you're going to have to fill? Have you started to look or collect names?
No, I haven't. And very candidly, when you look at the campaigns of my opponents, 2 of them specifically, and you see who's there, you see who donated, you see who's working. Those people aren't doing it for the betterment of the City of Toledo per se. They're doing it because there's promissory notes for jobs.
So you think it's in return for something that they're going to get after they get elected?
And that's where you're going to see the recycling again. You're going to see chiefs of staff that have been here before that are back here now. And that's got to stop, because that is just doing nothing but bringing stagnant and failed ideas back to the table, and we go nowhere. So I'm truthfully, when I asked the question, I have not promised one job to one person, and I'm not going to do that until the transition team functions. And I want them to look into the organization, City of Toledo, and tap on that talent that's already there.
Now, are those 2 campaigns, the Wilkowski and the Bell campaign?
Well, I think all you have to do is look at their checkbooks.
So you won't say, "Come on, get down, get dirty."
Fundamentally, I mean, you don't collect that kind of money. I mean, you're seeing huge dollars in both of those campaign coffers. They don't come without expectations.
Absolutely. Well, and we've said that a number of times. Well, the race is on. Next week, of course, we'll vote. If you make it into the top 2, Mike, we'll be talking to you again after September 15th.
Well, I look forward to it. It's a privilege to be on, and as always, have a great day.
All right, talk to you later.